Let me paint you a picture of what accidentally modeling burnout looked like in my life, because I have a feeling that some of you are going to see yourselves in this story. So from the outside, I was crushing it. Fashion model, check. Successful naturopathic physician running my own practice, check. Beautiful family, gorgeous house, seemed to have it all together, check, check, check. I thought that I was modeling success. But what I was actually modeling was how to look perfect on the outside while slowly falling apart on the inside. Picture this. I'm seeing patients with adrenal fatigue and burnout 10 hours a day. I'm literally the doctor people come to when they're exhausted, overwhelmed, and their bodies are breaking down from stress. And the whole time, I'm not paying attention to my own stress signals. I had convinced myself that because I wasn't eating processed foods, because I wasn't eating my known allergens, because I seemingly looked good on the outside, that I must be fine. I wasn't breaking down at work. I wasn't having panic attacks, so stress couldn't possibly be impacting my health. I was basing how I was doing on my outward appearance instead of really how I felt. So what was I unconsciously modeling? Let me be specific because this is where it gets real. I was modeling that you don't ask for help, even when you're drowning. I was modeling that pushing through is always the answer. I was modeling that your worth comes from how much you can handle, not from who you are as a human being. I was showing my staff that working through lunch was normal. I was showing my patients that doctors don't get tired. I was showing my kids that mommy was always busy, always on, always performing this version of success that required everything from me and gave very little back. I was modeling that if you can just control enough variables, you eat the right food, you follow the right protocols, you work hard enough, you can override your body's need for rest, for joy, and authentic connection. But here's the thing that no one talks about when you're a high achiever. I had this constant identity crisis running in the background. Who am I when I'm not performing? Who am I when I'm not achieving? Who am I if I'm not the woman who can handle everything? In the fashion industry, I learned to live by other people's expectations. Then in medicine, I learned to live by other people's expectations again. I was so good at being what everyone else needed me to be that I completely lost touch with who I actually was. And I was modeling for everyone around me that being yourself is less important than being what others need you to be. Then my mom got cancer. And watching her go through that, dealing with the emotional weight of losing her, plus trying to maintain everything else that I was doing, my body said, absolutely not. The physical symptoms hit hard, and I'm talking real symptoms that I couldn't ignore or push through anymore. And here's the irony that still gets me. I'm spending my days helping other people recover from the exact same thing that I'm experiencing, but I'm not applying all of it to myself. Don't get me wrong, I was doing the things that were within my control as far as diet, as far as supplements, but the mindset, I didn't understand how important it was to change my nervous system. I understood it on paper, and I advised to do it, but I wasn't doing it myself. And when my mom died, that's when everything came crashing down. I literally became my own patient. Adrenal fatigue. The doctor who treats adrenal fatigue for a living falling apart from adrenal fatigue. The irony, right? But here's where my story started to change. During the time that my mom was dying, I felt myself starting to slip away, not just from health, but from any sense of who I was underneath all the roles I was playing, right? I mean, I was taking care of my mom. I had already lost my dad. I had lost grandparents very close to me. I knew where it was going, as optimistic as I wanted to be. I knew I was going to lose her. I could feel part of me dying with her. And I knew I had to do something. And I had been a dancer my whole life. I was the co-captain of a dance team. I grew up with a musician father. Music was always playing in our house. My grandmother was a singer and a performer. I lived for theater and musicals as a teenager. In fact, I went to college on a theater scholarship. I used to be in the arts all the time. I didn't do that anymore. But dance, music, that was who I was. But somewhere in medical school, I just didn't have the time for it anymore. I'd take a class here and there, but I basically stopped dancing. I stopped connecting with that part of myself that was pure joy, pure expression, pure me. So one day, while my mom was going through treatment and I felt like I was disappearing, I walked into a hip hop class. And I'm talking a class full of 14-year-olds. I knew nothing about taking the hip hop class per se with these young girls, and I felt like a complete idiot. But for 1 hour, all I thought about was the music and the movement. 1 hour where I wasn't Dr. Pingel. I wasn't a model. I wasn't the perfect daughter or the woman who had it all together. I was just someone moving to the music. And as much as I couldn't pick it up anymore and I didn't get the moves right, there was a part of me that really felt like it came home. When my mom died, that hip hop class became the only light in my week. So I made a decision. I was going to do more of it. And I found my music again. Fast forward to now, I dance about 6 hours a week. And it's not just about the exercise or the stress relief, although it is both of those things, but it's about modeling something completely different. I am modeling that joy is not optional. I'm modeling that connecting with who you really are is part of sustainable success. It's not separate from it. I'm modeling that listening to your body is more important than pushing through the stress. Let me get practical about what this looks like day to day, because this is what your teams, your families, the people watching you need to see. Instead of basing I'm doing on how I look, I pay attention to how I feel. Instead of thinking I know what my body needs, I turn inward and I actually listen to what it's telling me. I set boundaries now, real ones. I prioritize exercise and rest, and I do it publicly so that the people around me, including my patients, including my kids, they see that these things matter. I model that letting go and relaxing is part of the health equation, not something that you earn once you've done enough. Most importantly, I notice when stress is impacting my health and I take action. I use the tools I've learned instead of just powering through. I speak up about what makes me happy and what doesn't. My communication is getting so much better, which makes all my relationships better. And here's what I want every leader listening to understand. When I changed what I was modeling, everyone around me started changing too. My staff started taking better care of themselves, and I started to attract people to work for me that prioritize self-care. My patients started believing that healing could include joy, not just discipline. My kids started to see that success could look like energy and happiness, not just achievement and exhaustion. My husband started seeing a partner who was present, not simply productive. I was modeling for all of them that you can be wildly successful and deeply connected to yourself. So if you're a leader of a business, of a team, of your family, and you're wondering what this means for you, here's the translation. What if you modeled that peak performance includes recovery, not just output? What if you showed your team that sustainable success means listening to your body's signals instead of overriding them? What if you demonstrated that authentic communication about challenges actually builds trust instead of weakening it? What if instead of modeling, I can handle anything, you modeled, I know how to take care of myself so that I can show up fully? Because here's what I've learned. You can't lead people somewhere you've never been yourself. I couldn't help people find sustainable success until I figured out what that looked like. I couldn't teach authentic leadership until I learned how to be authentically myself. So here's your challenge. Look at your life right now and ask yourself, am I modeling survival or success? Am I showing people how to push through or how to tune in? Am I teaching them that success requires everything from you, or that success flows from being connected to who you really are? This week, I want you to identify one way that you're modeling push through versus listen and respond. Maybe it's how you handle your calendar. Maybe it's how you talk about stress. Maybe it's whether you take lunch breaks or model that food is optional. And then I want you to try modeling something different, not because you have to become a different person, but because the people watching you, your team, your family, your colleagues, they need to see what sustainable success actually looks like. Until then, remember, you're modeling something whether you realize it or not. The question is, what do you want to be teaching? And are you brave enough to start modeling the kind of success that you actually want to live? Until next time.